Pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I give my full support to Sir Stephen and the committee and everything that he is asking for today. He had the foresight to bring this forward, particularly after the National Audit Office report, but he's also smart enough to follow up and start poking the government again to make sure that we can get some changes, because this is really a very serious issue that everybody is experiencing in their postbags up and down the country. I'm grateful to colleagues for being so kind about the bill. I am very committed to changing the law and improving the enforcement, but I have to give credit to the Right Honourable Member for East Surrey, who brought the bill forward initially, but then she was made up and I took it over, and also to the government under the Right Honourable Member for Suffolk Coastal, because it was government supported, which obviously always makes things easier when you're trying to force through change. So it is a great big team effort in that respect. But listen, the reason I care so much about the Child Maintenance Service is my experience as a family lawyer, but also my own personal family experience. My dad still stares off into the middle distance when he talks about his experience of the CSA back in the day, because it was an absolute disaster. And the service goes far beyond impacting, bringing money into people's pockets, as important as that is, and as much as we are right to focus on poverty of children, but it's every single child of every demographic caught up in separating parents. If the system does not work for them, parents often impact their children. Even they don't mean to, but it just happens. So if a parent has had a whole week of having to fight with the CMS about trying to get a calculation done, and then you've got handover, it's the kid caught in the middle of that frosty handover, or worse if it's shouting and it's frustration. So I cannot emphasise enough how this system working, and to colleagues saying this, getting it right early on, early intervention, makes deterrence for others, but it also changes the lives of families. I do want to say a little bit about dads. They feel so under attack whenever we talk about changing the Child Maintenance Service. It is dads often in my surgery, in tears, caring deeply about their children, often having residence of their children and shared care, but the system doesn't recognise that or has ignored a court order. And the round robins and the constant nightmare that they have with correspondence is absolutely damaging. And sadly, it's often dads that are taking their own lives and pointing to problems with the CMS. I think it is right, however, to recognise that 93% of paying parents in the system are dads, and that we can't ignore the fact that non-paying parents and the liability orders that have been sought in the past are also being sought against dads. So I think what I'm asking, actually, to all the dads listening to that, and when you hear sort of the push for curfew orders and societal changes and things like that, is actually stay angry. Don't necessarily stay angry with MPs in this room, because you'll just join a whole long list of people that are angry with us, but actually stay angry with the dads that are letting down their kids and are not paying, because it poisons the well for the good dads that are trying their best. And to just one of my constituents did point out that he feels that there is an institutional bias in favour of the receiving parent, and colleagues have said this, even when it's proven that the receiving parent is not being honest or true, the burden of proof is so often on the paying parent, and that is causing a huge amount of stress. But to the complex cases that we were trying to fix, I'm trying to do my maths on my timing, Sir Charles, but the complex parents that we were trying to fix with the tightening up enforcement, we have a situation where parents are seeing the lifestyle of a non-paying parent far outstripping. They're going abroad, they're having lovely times with their new families, and taking that evidence to the CMS is just falling down. And you've got a mum wrote to me and saying she had considerable stress. She wasn't receiving any money. She was working between 40 and 50 hours a week just to keep her kids clothed. That meant that she didn't qualify for any benefits because of her work ethic, and yet she could see the non-paying parent treating himself to several luxurious holidays a year to faraway shores. That is absolutely hugely detrimental to the children in that family, and we've got to make the choice. I will give this way.
Lady for giving way. On this point about complex cases, these are some of the most egregious cases that I, and I'm sure other members, have seen in their surgeries, where you've got the paying parent concealing income because they're self-employed and therefore not paying what's owed. One mother came to me who's owed £18,000 in arrears, another one fighting 6 years for £22,000 worth of payments. And the way that arrears are treated are also different to live cases, where a small amount being paid will be accepted. Does she agree with me that we need a full review of how these complex cases are dealt with and reform of the CMS?
Absolutely. One of the biggest issues is lives are complex now. Families are complex. Families are blended. We have wonderful ways of living, and that has to be reflected in how the CMS caseworkers are trained, but also have that particular bespoke approach to each case, because it is incredibly difficult. I give credit to the CMS. I'm always impressed by them. I thoroughly enjoyed working with them to try and make the changes, and also Lord Younger and Baroness Stedman-Scott, amazing parliamentarians that are working really hard. But the National Audit Office says that we are heading for £1 billion of arrears by 2030, when the Child Support Agency had a controlled explosion in 2014 to 2018. We know that the figures weren't anywhere near that, but the reality of the long wait for decisions, a lack of clarity about maintenance paid, poor communication, really unclear calculations, poor service and bad handling is poisoning the well for all families, and I urge the Minister to take that strong message back.